Hello and welcome. Today we're speaking to Tom Flynn, who is the Business Development Manager of TFC Research and Innovation Limited. We're really happy to have this conversation with them. Tom has a lot of expertise in the standardisation and security sphere, so you're very welcome, Tom. Perhaps you could start off by telling us a little bit about your background in European projects and what led you to Stair4Security.
Hi, Cheryl, and thank you. And a pleasure to be having this interview with you. It's a good question. I think to answer the question, we've been involved with European projects for some time. We've dealt with a number of areas from ICT to security, to eHealth, to agriculture. And with the company, I would see, to define it, would be more like a scientific engagement research organization where we help bring ideas to life. We support the area of project management to do a heck of a lot of work in standardization. Of course, the outreach is a big part of it. And we were contacted some time back by Senelec to see would we be interested in joining on the Stair4Security project, which we did, and we're delighted to be working with Future Analytic Consulting, your organization, Cheryl, and others involved in it. So it's through the involvement through the European Commission, through the engagement with others across Europe, universities, industry, that we are being invited and given the invitations are there, then we were pleased to be involved with some good projects. And the Stair4Security, Cheryl, is a really good project, and it's an important one for society, especially for European resilience, and horrible things have happened in recent times, which makes this pretty important. And I'm keen to do whatever we can to make it a successful project. So you're going to ask me what the project is about. Well, I think the project, to define it, it would be the development of a framework and a platform which includes an e-learning tool, and also it addresses the area of CWA fast-track procedures. It's looking very much so at defining an area that's targeting CBRNE and DRR, which is the disaster risk reduction area. These are, apologies, sir, these are areas which are critical. So we believe by having a good focus area, standardization, going through the research projects, knowing what the state of the art is, pre-standardizations, solutions which are there, and putting into this platform and working through the framework, which of course there's a lot of governance around all of this. We will give people what they need to know, when they need to know it, in a clever and a one-stop shop way, which is what this project is about. So if you're a policymaker, you will be able to benefit from this platform. You'll be able to see it from your perspective. Then again, if you're a researcher, you can also find out what projects are there, what areas are being looked at, and this tool is there. But of course, industry and practitioners, we really want them involved. So this tool, I believe, being driven by policymakers, designed very much so for practitioners, i.e. first responders, operators, it will deliver something that they will value. And of course, we encourage more people from the practitioner industry to get more involved with standardization. And that's very much so a high priority for this specific project.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for touching on the key results of the project and who's going to benefit from them. So really appreciate that information. Because you've got such a rich background in security and standardization, what would be the optimum environment for standardization, and what would be the best kind of process for the standardization in the security sector?
Let me quote you from Eleni Zadiaga. She's a lady from the Director General of Senelec, and she said something at the beginning of the year which kind of captured, I don't know how to describe it. It kind of captured my imagination, and we bring it forward to the work we do in standardization. And let me just tell you what it is. It says standards are a forward-looking activity, as it calls for the ability to understand the future and define agreed roadmaps that on how to make it possible and in practice, and then enable it to happen. It's a huge statement that came from the Director General of the Senelect, Dr. Lady Santiago, and it means so much because we have to look to the future. If we look at the air security, we've been in Europe. We're hearing disasters all the time, be it from a terrorist attack to horrific climatic effect to the likes of floods and so forth. So there's many areas there from disaster resilience and from CBRNE that we need to strengthen. And I think this platform will bring in a new way at looking at standards for these specific areas. And therefore, one of the work practices which has been led by DIN and jointly by AFNOR is to look at the whole area of the SEN workshop agreement document and the fast track, which are not full standards, but they are a way of coming together to say, yes, there's a gap, there's an issue, and we want to define it, not as a full standard, but as a way to be a stepping stone to a full standard and getting the right people involved so the practitioners are there. And the Stair4Security project allows us to re-examine this CWA, which it was there 20 odd years ago. It was first initiated 20 odd years ago. So now we have a chance to revise it, to improve it, and to bear in mind the future needs based on what Eleni said. We've got to look to the future, and the roadmaps are very important. And the revision and the improvements in this area is critical to what we now find ourselves at this moment in time in Europe.
Thank you, Tom. In terms of your ambition for this project, what would that be?
I think the ambitions is clear. I think I want to see policymakers, and there are many policymakers in the European Commission, from DG Home to DG Growth to DG Tax, DG Customs. There's quite a range there, and the issue of CBRNE and DRR are relevant from their own perspective. So I think potentially there's overlap, and sometimes it may not be so obvious that it's there, but by having this platform, having this framework, we may be able to identify easier that the issues are there, and we want practitioners to tell us where the gaps exist, and then get involving in research. More practitioners involved in research, and the platform will show where gaps might exist, and then helping the Commission to identify where improvements need to be made. So therefore, it can help. For example, in the Horizon Europe call, we could see some areas in there saying, yes, it's been identified and it's come through this platform and framework that the Commission can act on it collectively across the different policymakers, rather than one unit addressing it and the other maybe 2-3 years down the road not understanding sufficiently well enough that there's actually some work in this area, that they would make steps to check out what's there first of all before they would go off and issue any potential call in this area. So there's some of the areas. From a research point of view, I think it's always needed to make sure that they know what's kind of going on, and this will allow them to see what projects have addressed standardization, to know where issues may exist in the area of standardization, and of course the inputs from all this and through the governments and so forth will come through Senelect, of course, and the individual standards organizations in this project. So it's pretty good. But where do we get the information from? Well, we get the information from a number of existing projects. For example, the No Fear project, the DareNet project, the FireN project, including Encircle. These are just some sample of projects which the Stair4Security will engage with, and we aim to obtain data from them, so we know what their project has to offer across state of the art, from their terms of deliverables, from reports, from standardization, so we can build that information into all these into the platform, and therefore we build up the content, the data that others can share from. So we're looking very much so in the upcoming meetings in Brussels at the Community Users event to engage with some of these projects. And we've lined up a number of meetings across there, and we will spend quite a lot of time engaging next year in more of these projects and making sure that they understand what we're doing quite well, and likewise we're obtaining the data information extremely well from them. So we're working at the moment and it's moving in the right direction, Joe.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Tom, for speaking with us today. And we will certainly keep in touch, and we look forward to working with you over the next year.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for your time.